Love is in the air, darlings, and so is scandal, or at least it was in Hollywood's golden age. You see, Tinseltown has never been short on handsome leading men, but what the studios didn't want you to know, some of the dreamiest, most debonair heartthrobs of the silver screen were sharing their pillow talk with each other. And since it's Valentine's Day, what better time to celebrate the real and rumored romances of old Hollywood? We're talking clandestine kisses, whispered rendezvous, and beachside roommates who were giving gay lister long before Fire Island was a thing. So grab your pearls so you can clutch them, pour yourself a stiff martini or 3, and let's dive into the dashing duos who made hearts, and possibly other things, flutter behind the scenes. First up, the studio system's star-crossed lovers.
Ladies and gentlemen, in this corner, the one you've been keeping tabs on, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy next door. The all-American dreamboat who had every Bobby Soxer swooning, the golden boy Hollywood hunted for, here to talk young love and spill the tea on the girl he left behind. The one, the only, Tab Hunter. And in the opposite corner, brooding, brilliant, and just a little too intense to be the boy next door. With cheekbones sharp enough to cut glass and a gaze that could haunt your dreams, he made new roses look sexy, decades before it was cool. He's the master of suspense's favorite mama's boy, Hollywood's most reluctant heartthrob, the dark prince of the silver screen, Anthony Perkins.
Tony and Tab, a match made in Hollywood heaven, just not one the studio system wanted you to know about. Their love affair was straight out of a tragic romance. The chemistry between them, undeniable. They met at the Chateau Marmont while Tony was filming Friendly Persuasion, and from that moment on, sparks flew. But their careers? Well, they weren't exactly their own. These two golden boys were property, each owned by a studio with PR teams working overtime to keep them apart. And alas, after 4 years, their affair came to an end. But you know it must have sizzled while it lasted. And in case you're wondering, and let's be real, we all are. Did Tab and Tony ever take turns dressing up as mother? We'll never know. But we can dream. Yes, we can dream. Wow, Tab and Tony, serving looks, serving drama, and probably serving each other in ways the studio system did not approve. Truly, a Hollywood snack so scandalous it would have made Hedda Hopper's hat fly off. And if that got you worked up, brace yourself, because our next couple, the Latin lover and the leading man who made all of Hollywood swoon, might just tip you over the edge. While his swarthy good looks saw Cesar Romero cast as everything from Italian gangsters to East Indian Rajas, this self-proclaimed Latin from Manhattan, his mom was Cuban, his dad was Spanish, made bank as the quintessential Latin lover. In many ways, he was the successor to Hollywood's OG Latin king, or is it queen, Ramon Navarro. 'Cause, let's be real, Navarro was about as straight as a 3-peso note. Caesar spent his career being Hollywood's most eligible bachelor, which, as we all know, was just old-timey code for confirmed bachelor, which we all know was even older-timey code for gayer than a Candyland Chutes and Ladders mashup. Go for it, dude. Work your way through that lollipop forest. Yeah, bro, that's it. Slide down to my rainbow trail. Pretty boy Tyrone Power, on the other hand, was legendary for his 3 marriages and torrid affairs with co-stars. Although for Tyrone, ever the overachiever, these liaisons were apparently not limited to his leading ladies. While it is unclear when the Tyrone-Roman bromance, that's a euphemism, started, it was on full display when the two embarked on an 8-week lads weekend, spreading the love, among other things, throughout South America. Ay caramba! You know, I was this close to cracking the Tyrone Power Cesar Romero puzzle. Then I found out Caesar's nickname was Butch, and had to lie down for a bit. But if you love a classic roommates for 10 years situation, grab your Speedo and some sunscreen. Our next couple turned their California beach pad into a golden age gaycation. Picture it. A sun-drenched beach house, 2 of Hollywood's most dashing leading men, and a camera crew documenting their every move. But wait, this isn't Fire Island Pines in the 70s. This is a Santa Monica bachelor pad in the 1930s. And when I say bachelor pad, I mean it was nicknamed Bachelor Hall, and every single photo of them together looks like the cover of a gay honeymoon brochure. Or, more accurately, a safe-for-work ad for one of those clothing-optional all-male resorts you'll find clustered in places like Fort Lauderdale or Palm Springs. So who were these sun-kissed Adonises, lounging poolside in snugly fitting trunks, playing backgammon in crisply matching chinos, or feeding a fussy little pocket puppy from their equally fussy dining table? Bachelor number 1 started life on the mean streets of Bristol, England, with an alcoholic father and a mentally ill mother. While seemingly destined for a roustabout's life, our Cockney castaway escaped by running away and joining a circus, or at least an acrobatic troupe, which soon found our boy in Coney Island. Yes, that Coney Island. A chance encounter, while on stilts no less, with an as-yet undiscovered Hollywood costumer, Ori Kelly, led our lad west, where little Archie Leach's transformation into the dashing Cary Grant began in earnest. Bachelor number 2's upbringing couldn't have been more different. Born into a privileged old money family from the South, Randolph Scott's early life was all private schools, polo matches, and sports. And while Cary transitioned away from his rough-and-tumble roots to become the epitome of sophisticated charm, Randolph made his mark as the rugged, stoic hero of Hollywood westerns. As for Bachelor number 3, who knows? But the pair hosted plenty of known homosexuals, including Noel Coward, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Moss Hart, a young Jerome Zerby, the photographer who shot that infamous spread, and, get this, even Cary's first wife. Because their real coupling lasted longer than most of their marriages to women, in the end they spent the better part of a decade as roommates. Roommates? Sure, Jan. They lived together, vacationed together, and even snuck a little inside joke into My Favorite Wife, where Cary rhapsodized while imagining an acrobatic Randolph performing in the ether. Eventually, though, the studio laid down the law. You can stay together, or you can renew your contract. And just like that, Hollywood's most glamorous roommate situation came to an end. Next up, we have a Hollywood love story so legendary, it makes all those studio-arranged marriages look like cheap fan fiction. William Haynes was one of MGM's top stars in the silent era, with a face that could launch 1,000 swoons. Not that he had nothing in common with our last couple. Like Randolph, William was a son of Virginia. And like Cary, he ran away from home at an early age to seek his fortune. Though in William's case he was 14, and he didn't run away alone. He was accompanied by another boy, whom he openly referred to as his boyfriend. From there, it was the same old Hollywood story. Make bank working with dangerous chemicals, supplement your income by hoofing at a dance hall/brothel, move to gay old Greenwich Village, get kept by a much older MILF. And then, naturally, get discovered and land a studio contract. In William's case, that came after being spotted in a New Faces of 1922 contest. So, yeah, the usual stuff. But unlike most leading men of his time, he refused to play the game. In 1926, during a trip back east, William met James Jimmy Shields. Sparks flew, love blossomed, and before you could say lavender marriage, William whisked Jimmy off to Hollywood, set up house, and introduced him to their inner circle. Their friends knew exactly what was up, and in a town built on illusion, everyone accepted that these two were the real deal. But Hollywood has never been great at letting its stars have too much fun. Flash forward to 1935. William gets arrested at a YMCA with a sailor he'd met in Pershing Square in Los Angeles. Now, I don't know if this particular YMCA moment inspired the village people, but it sure as heck ruffled feathers back at the studio. And by ruffled feathers, I mean he got an ultimatum. Because, apparently, supporting the troops was one thing, but fraternizing with them? That was another matter entirely. MGM gave William a choice. He could ditch Jimmy or he could kiss his career goodbye. But let's be real, there was no way in hell William was leaving Jimmy. Well, maybe for a few hours, and only if the fleet was in and the sailor was trade. Listen, Fidelity and gay relationships of the era didn't always follow the mainstream. But at the end of the day, William chose Jimmy. And let's just say, it was the best decision he ever made. Because while Hollywood may have turned its back on William Haynes, the rich and famous certainly did not. He and Jimmy reinvented themselves as one of Tinseltown's most sought-after interior design teams, decorating the homes of the biggest stars in the business. From movie moguls to A-list actors, everyone wanted a touch of Haynes and Shields in their homes. Which, honestly, feels like poetic justice. So, some stars lost their careers for choosing love. Others quietly made it work. And then we have George Nader and Mark Miller, Hollywood's most patient power couple, who not only survived the system, but inherited its most famous closeted leading man. Now, George Nader wasn't just any handsome leading man. He had the square jaw, piercing gaze, and deep voice that made studio execs rub their hands together and say, "We can work with this." He even had the kind of ambiguous last name that could pass for a mysterious international appeal. But what George also had? A long-term boyfriend, Mark Miller, who happened to be Rock Hudson's personal secretary. Which, let's be real, raises some questions. The contract gaze of Hollywood. George, like Tab Hunter, was part of an unspoken but well-understood Hollywood survival mechanism. The contract gaze. Charming, handsome, and publicly heterosexual actors, the studio system could expend when the heat was on, ensuring their more bankable stars remained protected. And when Confidential magazine, the scandal rag with a chokehold on 1950s Hollywood, came sniffing around for dirt on Rock Hudson, someone had to take the fall. That someone? George Nader. He was outed to the press to keep the biggest heartthrob in Hollywood safe. The difference between him and Tab? While Tab's career barely took a hit, his all-American appeal proving bulletproof, George's leading man trajectory was essentially over. Sure, he still worked, but suddenly the movies got, let's just say, a lot cheaper. From silver screen to silver foxes. But if Hollywood thought they were punishing George, they underestimated just how well he and Mark played the long game. Because while Rock Hudson spent decades dodging rumors and living in the glass closet, George and Mark built a quiet, drama-free life together. And when Rock passed away in 1985, it wasn't some lavender marriage widow or estranged family members who inherited the bulk of his estate. It was George and Mark, the two men who had been by his side for years, watching, waiting, and, if you believe certain rumors, possibly participating in something a little more intimate than estate planning. Pause for dramatic effect. Now, I'm not saying Rock Hudson, George Nader, and Mark Miller were a throuple, but I am saying that if you think Hollywood's leading men didn't know how to share, you need to check out our video Love Triangles and Literary Heartthrobs. Just don't blush too hard.